Okay, let's talk about learning something new. We need to get into why it can feel so incredibly hard sometimes, and more importantly, how we can fix that with a method that actually works with our brain instead of fighting against it.
You know the feeling I'm talking about, right? You decide you're going to learn something new. Maybe it's an instrument, a new language, coding. You're so excited, you're all in. And then, a few weeks later, bam, you just hit a wall. It's this wall of frustration where it feels like nothing is sticking and you're not making any progress. And that's when it starts. That quiet little voice in the back of your head pops up and whispers, maybe you're just not cut out for this. Maybe you're not a learning person. And that voice, it can be so convincing. But I'm here to tell you, it's also completely wrong. What if that stuck feeling has nothing to do with your ability? What if the whole problem is just the strategy? The way you've been taught to learn is actually what's holding you back. Let's really dig into that idea.
So to make this real, let me introduce you to someone. This is Sarah. She was a fantastic graphic designer, and she wanted to shift her career into UX design. But looking at it all, it just felt huge, overwhelming. And deep down, she was terrified that she just didn't have what it would take. Her story is going to be our roadmap here.
So the first myth Sarah had to completely unlearn was this whole 10,000-hour rule thing. We've all heard it. But amazing research from Anders Ericsson shows that it's not about the sheer volume of hours you put in. It's about the quality of those hours. It's about something he called deliberate practice.
So what does that actually mean? Well, deliberate practice isn't just mindlessly repeating something over and over. It's about intentionally finding the edge of your ability, the part that's just a little too hard, and pushing right there. And then getting immediate feedback so you can tweak and adjust. That's where the real lasting growth actually happens.
Of course, the second you start pushing those limits, this guy shows up. Imposter syndrome. That cold, sinking feeling in your gut that you're a total fraud, and at any moment, everyone's going to find out. And when you're learning, you're basically living in a state of not knowing, which just pours gasoline on that fire.
But here's the absolute game-changing reframe that Sarah learned. She realized that feeling of being an imposter, it wasn't a verdict on her abilities. It wasn't proof she was failing. It was just data. It was a useful signal pointing her to exactly what she needed to focus on next.
And this simple little question changed absolutely everything for her. Instead of beating herself up, she just got curious. Okay, so this is my current skill level. What's the very next step to get to the next one? Shifting from judgment to curiosity, that's the whole secret.
But then, of course, she hit the next classic trap, analysis paralysis. There are so many books, so many online courses, so many YouTube tutorials. She just froze. She got so caught up in trying to find the perfect place to start that she never actually started.
And listen, this is so important. Real learning is not about perfect preparation. It's about taking messy, imperfect action. You will learn so much more about just doing the thing, even badly, and getting real-world feedback than you ever will from another week of passive research.
Okay, so we've got the mindset sorted. Now let's get into the practical tools. Sarah didn't just start thinking differently. She started doing things differently. She used 3 incredibly powerful, science-backed principles that made all the difference.
First up, spaced repetition. Instead of cramming for hours on end, you review what you've learned in sessions that are spaced further and further apart. You might review something after 1 day, then 3 days, then a week. Every time you do this, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain that says, hey, this is important, hang on to it.
Next is active recall, and this one is huge. It's the difference between passively recognizing information versus truly knowing it. So instead of just rereading your notes, close the book. Try to explain the concept out loud from memory. That struggle to pull the information out, that's the mental workout that actually builds strong memories.
And finally, we have interleaving. Now, I'll admit, this one feels kind of weird when you first do it, but it's so effective. Instead of practicing one skill until you master it, you mix up different but related skills in one session. This forces your brain to constantly figure out which strategy to use, building a much deeper and more flexible kind of knowledge.
So, let's put it all together. Here it is. This is your new learning playbook. It's a simple, clear, step-by-step process that takes you from that feeling of frustrating wasted effort and puts you on the path to smart, focused, and honestly, much faster learning.
You know, the one thing all of these techniques have in common is what scientists call desirable difficulty. That feeling of struggle, that moment where it feels hard and a little uncomfortable, that's not a sign you're failing. That is the sign that your brain is literally building new connections. It's the feeling of learning happening in real time.
And the result for our friend Sarah? Well, just 4 months after she started this new approach, she landed her first job as a junior UX designer. Not because she was secretly a genius, but because she finally had a method that worked with her brain.
Look, if you only take one single thing away from this whole explainer, please let it be this.
Give yourself permission to be a beginner. Give yourself permission to be imperfect right now. The goal isn't perfection today. It's just about being a tiny bit better tomorrow than you were today. Progress is the name of the game.
So, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What is that one skill you've been putting off? The one you've been avoiding because you told yourself you didn't have the time, or maybe that you just weren't talented enough? What if the only thing that was ever really in your way was your method?